What's going on YouTube? So today we've got the all-new 2023 Mercedes C43 AMG.
And with a all-new handcrafted 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, is this the sports sedan you should buy?
Let's go ahead and find out. So a fitting place to start off this review is going to be under the hood. So what do we have? We have a new handcrafted 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with Mercedes EQ boost system. Total output is going to be 402 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah, so thank you, Simon Sanez, because we're gonna have a lot of fun later in this video in the test drive portion because of your hard work. Now it is going to be paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission, standard 4MATIC all-wheel drive for the C43, and as far as your fuel economy is concerned, you're sitting at 22 miles a gallon combined. Now of course there is a lot more details that we can't wait to share with you, but that will be at the end in our test drive portion, so stay tuned for that part of the video.
For now, let's go ahead and close up the hood here, take a look at what exterior enhancements you get with the 43 AMG. So when it comes to the exterior design of the C43, as you'd expect, you do get those nice AMG touches as standard in the front end design. That means you have the signature AMG grille with the vertical lines that run through it. And then we, of course, have the standard version here today, but you do also have the availability of a Night 1 and Night 2 package. Both of those do, as you would expect, black out a lot of different elements, increasingly all around the rest of the vehicle. Then of course your lower fascia here is quite aggressive as well. Now as we come over here to our headlights, you do have standard full LED headlights, and you have the availability of Mercedes digital light. That's their very advanced headlight system, which can even project things onto the road. But as far as these, that's going to be a projector low beam and a reflector high beam, and then you get the signature daytime running light and turn signal indicator. Now as we come around to the rear design, you're not going to be surprised with what you find back here. This is your signature next generation C-Class rear design, but with some nice sporty AMG touches.
What are those AMG touches? Well, we're gonna have a spoiler up top. We have AMG branding, of course. This is an AMG C43 over here. And then when you drop down to this lower area, boy, we are gonna have a nice looking design. The rear diffuser is going to be a lot more aggressive for C43 duty. As you can see, it's finished in silver. That's the standard color finish. If you go for the night model, that's gonna fully black things out. And as you can see, we do have the quad exhaust outlets. And I can't wait to show you what that's gonna sound like in just a second. Now we have the optional performance exhaust on this C43, so let's go ahead and see how it sounds in the normal exhaust mode. Okay, now for the sport exhaust mode. It's much improved in sport mode. It definitely has a nice meaty growl to it. Now do keep in mind it is going to be rev limited. Obviously this is a brand new vehicle, so we're not going to rev it to redline, but not a bad exhaust note for sure.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the tail lights. So I'm going to go ahead and hop inside here, and we'll see which elements are LED.
So we do have an LED brake light, an LED reverse light, as well as an amber LED turn signal indicator. So that's pretty much your standard affair C-Class taillight, which is certainly very nice.
Now when it comes to your wheel options, you do have several. You're going to start out with 18-inch alloys. However, we have one of the optional 20-inch alloy wheels. I love this design. I think it looks really good, really pops, especially with the contrast elements, and you have this kind of unique circular effect that goes around the outside edges. I really like that. And of course, we also have more aggressive treads. So we have Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires on board. Now rising on up here to our mirror, we do have all the features as standard equipment. So that'll be heating, power folding, auto dimming, and blind spot monitoring.
Now here at the side of the C43, typical C-Class stuff happens, so we're gonna have a length of 187 inches for this model. And I do wanna point out, if you go for the AMG, night packages that will black out your window surrounds, as well as some other elements like the mirror cap as well, to give you that sportier look. Now, as far as your safety systems are concerned, we are gonna have 2 out of your 4 active safety features as standard equipment. That will be forward emergency braking, as well as auto high beam headlamps. Now, in typical Mercedes-Benz fashion, you do have a driver's assistance package, and that's gonna throw in all the other goodies and nannies that you might want if you're a not so great driver. And I do wanna point out that Mercedes is actually offering adaptive cruise control as a standalone $600 option if you don't need the more expensive goodies in the driver's assistance package. Well guys, I don't want to leave you in suspense any longer on what's on the inside, as well as get to that test drive portion I know you're waiting on. So let's go ahead and do that. And if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, so before we climb inside, let's take a look at the key fob. Really nice key fob. I dig this new Mercedes key fob. Lots of real metal trim here. You got special AMG branding on the front and the back, and a nice piano black. Of course, you do have standard smart entry, so you can just grab behind the handle. That will unlock the door. You can also remote start via the Mercedes Me application. Now, take a look inside this beautifully finished cabin. As you can see, of course, it does have the latest C-Class design. And as far as the seating material, let's start with that. You do have standard MB text. However, on today's tester, we have the optional real leather. Now, as you can see, it's a very nice looking seat. Feels good and high quality. And as far as your color options, you have the choice between black, this sienna brown with the black color contrast, or you also have a red option. Now, as far as the seat adjustments, those are going to be over here on the door in typical Mercedes fashion. You just press, kind of put pressure on these buttons right here. That's going to adjust the seat in 16 ways, including a power headrest. You also have 3-person memory seating, standard heating, and available ventilation. But let's go ahead and climb inside. Now let's go ahead and look around at the rest of the cabin materials, starting out over here with our door trim. Nicely finished, of course. We have the beautiful brown leather through the center section. You also have leather trim across the entire top part of the door trim, and that does continue across the entire top part of the dashboard. As you can see, you also have the stitching detail through there. You got the cool new vents, and we have a large piece of carbon fiber trim here on this model. This is actually going to be optional. You would have standard wood, and then down through there you have a waterfalling effect with some piano black trim. But let's go ahead and fire it up. But like always, you know what time it is. It's time to move in closer into a first-person perspective and look at all the details. First off, we have the 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster right here in front of the driver. Just like every Mercedes, you have a ton of different design choices. Right now I'm in the sport gauge cluster because that felt the most fitting, but you can also choose a minimalistic, classic look. You can even go to like a full map display. You have a ton of different options and customizations that you can choose between. Now, in addition to that, if you choose the top-end Pinnacle trim, which is what we have today, that's also going to get you a large head-up display. Now, pulling back to the steering wheel, this has got to be one of my favorite elements inside of this cabin. It's absolutely awesome looking. This is the new AMG steering wheel. It's flat bottom, thick rimmed, feels great in the hand. As you can see, you've got that cool design where you can actually see through these sections here. And we also have just absolutely the coolest paddle shifters. They're got this very interesting shape to them where you have a top part, it goes solid in the center, and then you also have this bottom element. They feel fantastic as well because they're made of real aluminum. Furthermore, you also have these dials right here so you can turn on and off the active exhaust, and we can also twist this to quickly change our drive modes. Now, as far as the steering wheel itself, power tilt and telescoping, and we also have optional steering wheel heating. But now let's go ahead, take a look at interior storage. Opening up our center console here. Nice size to this. We do have a felt lining as well as a couple USB ports inside. But even though this is a Mercedes, you know we have to put everything to the test with our coupon test. So let's stick this stack in here, see if it's going to close up. It looks a little tight. Uh-oh. Actually does not fit in there too well, but we could probably fold it in half and kind of stuff it in there. But it's going to be a little tight if you're a heavy couponer in your Mercedes C43. Now up in front of that, we've got a nice area for storage. These cup holders are resizable, and then you also have a wireless phone charging pad way back there. Now, of course, in typical Mercedes fashion, no shifter down there. It's going to be up here as a column-mounted electronic style. Press down for drive. Again, you have those beautiful paddle shifters. Press up for reverse. And when you do, you are going to find this lovely 360-degree camera system. I say lovely because this is one of the best in the business. If you press that button right there, it's going to take you into this full three-dimensional view where you just have an extraordinary level of detail. You also have parking assistance, so you can automatically parallel and perpendicular park the vehicle. And then, of course, just press the end of the stalk for park. Now, the next place to check out is this row of controls. As you can see, you've got some interesting things here, such as your fingerprint reader that allows you to sync different driver settings. And then right next to that, you also have a volume slider, although you can, of course, use the steering wheel controls as well. Now, this is going to control a upgraded sound system in today's example. That's going to be the 710 watt 15 speaker Burmester 3D sound system. So let's go ahead and give that a sample right now. Yeah, so overall sound quality of this system is excellent, as you would expect. All right, so it's now time to start to dig into this display. But the first place I want to start out with is down here in the lower part of the display, which is going to be dedicated to climate controls, excuse me. We do have a dual zone automatic climate setup standard on the C43. You also have an available 4-zone automatic climate setup. Nice and easy to control, just adjust your temperature like so. You can also change your fan speeds and your automatic function through there. And if you need any additional functions, you can find those inside of the pop-up climate menu. Now, as far as the main display, let's get into that. 11.9 inches is its screen size. Of course, it is portrait oriented, so it's a little bit like a tablet. And also, if I go like this, you can tell it is oriented slightly towards the driver, so it kind of just curves and tilts towards you, so you always have a nice view if you are behind the wheel. Now, this is running the latest version of the MBUX system. Right now, we're in kind of this pop-up design function inside of MBUX, so you have your main functions actually located down there, and you can kind of pop them up and locate all your different things over top of your main navigation system, which is built in, of course, and you do also have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Up top here, we've got an auto-dimming mirror, 3 HomeLink universal remotes, and then you will find a standard sunroof on the C43, or an optional panoramic one. As you can tell, we've got the panoramic one, so you've got kind of 2 panels here, back panel as well as this large front panel, and this one does open up.
Well, come on back here in the C43's rear seat with me. Now, if you're a kid that gets to ride around in the C43, you're a very special kid, and you ought to be grateful to your parents who bought the cool C43. Now, as far as the space is concerned, 36 inches of legroom, 37.5 inches of headroom. I do also like that we have kind of our own moonroof back here. As far as how that compares to its main competition, like the Audi A4, BMW 3 Series, that's a little bit more space than those rivals. I'm 5'9" for reference. The seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8", and I do have a pretty spacious, about 7 inches of space between my knees and the seat back, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat. So this C-Class is very spacious, so I do want to kind of point that out as a big benefit for choosing this over some of the competition. Now, here in the center, we do have rear vents. That's going to be standard equipment. We do have optional climate controls, although this particular C43 does not have that. And I do want to point out there's a little hole down here, but there are no USB ports in the rear of this C43, so I'm a little disappointed by that. And I do want to point out that this center tunnel is quite large, so the center passenger in the rear is going to be a little bit uncomfortable and have to spread their legs out. Now, as far as other features are concerned, we do have the center armrest. Nicely pointed here. You can pop this out. This is a phone holder, and then further pop it out. That gives you your cup holders. Then let's turn to your door trim. The door trim is going to be nicely finished. A nice leatherette on the upper portion. We have leather all through the center area, that kind of floating look for our door handle. And then down in the very bottom, we do have door storage. I also want to point out no heated rear seats are offered on the C43. Now, walking up to the trunk of the C43, we do have a fully power one. That's because we have the Pinnacle trim level. I do also want to point out it's supposed to have the hands-free abilities. That is actually not on this particular model, and they give you a little credit due to the COVID part shortages. Now, as far as the space is concerned in the trunk area of the C43, you're looking at an unchanged figure from the regular C-Class, so 12.6 cubic feet is your rating. That's a decent amount for the segment. It's pretty much on par with the majority of the rivals. As far as how they finished it, nice carpeting along the floor. If we lift this up, you're going to have a little bit of a surprise. Look at all this underfloor storage. It's actually quite a lot. No spare tire though. And I do want to point out here, your seats do fold 40-20-40 split. You just use these little levers right here, and that will go ahead and electrically fold the second row down. So that's nice and easy. Typically you don't see that on a sedan. It's only on SUVs, so I like that Mercedes just included those nice little switches on the side. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the all-new C43 AMG. I know this is the part of the video you've been waiting for. It's the part of the video that I've been waiting for.
Absolutely.
Certainly the big news with the C43 is that new engine under the hood. So we can't wait to show you all that's cool with that new powertrain, what they are including on the C43, as well as talk about other things as you can see on the screen right now. But for now, we'll go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
All right. Nice snappy acceleration with this all-new C43 AMG. So to remind you from the spec dump, yes, this does actually have a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, although from the acceleration there, you certainly wouldn't realize it. 402 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque, is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, EQ boost as well, and it also has an electric exhaust turbocharger, which is actually a technology that Mercedes had in their F1 vehicles, and they've brought that into a production vehicle. So
a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah,
with
it's certainly
the C43.
not just like, you know, your regular run-of-the-mill 2-liter 4-cylinder. You know, they've totally boosted this up and added a lot of advanced technology to give you that experience behind the wheel. Now, if you're wondering about a 0 to 60, that's going to be about 4.6 seconds, according to Mercedes, which we do want to point out is a little slower, actually, than the previous generation.
The previous C43 was rated at 4.2 seconds to 60, so about 0.4 of a second slower for the new one. Not that you guys are really going to notice that it's slow or anything like that. 4.6 seconds is still very quick in a sedan like this. Now, I do also want to point out that this 2-liter 4-cylinder is handcrafted, has their newest EQ boost system on board as well, and the EQ boost system can actually boost horsepower up to 13 horsepower more in the C43, which is a really cool thing. Typically, the EQ boost is only for, you know, advanced auto start stop, but it does actually have a performance advantage here in the C43.
Now, before we get out on the open road, we might as well talk about the auto start stop system. That's also part of the EQ boost. It's very advanced, very nice and smooth. It turns off as you're actually coming to a stop, and like Mason was saying, you also have the benefit of boosting the power as you take off as well.
Nice.
Really excellent torque. You can really just feel that push you back in the seat. As far as the transmission, what we have is a 9-speed dual clutch automatic transmission, or MCT in Mercedes speak. So this is a performance-oriented transmission, certainly. What we're doing right now is just kind of driving around. We're in comfort mode, so this is just your ordinary driving mode, but we're getting ready to get onto a little bit of a twisty road. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and twist that to sport and turn on the performance exhaust. Now we're ready.
So
Nice.
Definitely like the the exhaust and sport. It's going to give you the pops of the previous C43. That was one of my favorite elements about the C43, was just the popping and all the snapping and the crackling and all that good stuff. That's like one of the best parts about it, and I do like to see that they've even included that here on the 2-liter version. And yeah, the power is just very impressive once you finally get to put that down. We haven't mentioned it up until this point, but you do have standard 4MATIC all-wheel drive with the C43, so that really helps you put your power down.
It's rear bias though.
Yeah.
So now we are out on the curvy back road here. It's time to talk about your driving dynamics. And of course, this is, you know, where things really come to life with the C43. You have a lot of different technologies on board to make this a great experience. First of all, you do have adaptive dampers. So when we clicked it into sport mode, you can tell a very profound difference in how stiff the suspension is. This really keeps you nice and buttoned down as we go around corners. There's basically no body roll whatsoever, so I'm really liking that. Additionally, as we mentioned on the outside, you have the rear steering system, so you have just an exceptionally agile feel as we go around corners, because you can turn 2.5 degrees as you go around corners, giving you a nice agile feel as well as a stable feel. And the steering, very fast responding. I mean, you dial this thing just a tiny little bit and you have that immediate response, not to mention the fact that just holding the steering wheel feels like a special occasion.
Yeah, this steering wheel is one of my favorites.
It's spectacular. The exhaust note is very nice and deep.
Yeah. One of the deepest 4-cylinders I've heard for sure. You can just tell with the C43 what this product was designed for. You know, coming from the city out to this country road, it really just shows you the best of both worlds. And really one of the beautiful aspects about anything in this segment is just the dual character aspect.
Right.
You know, it's a full-blown C-Class when you're just driving in the city and have it in comfort mode. But when you really take it out on a road like this, you can get the full kind of AMG experience. You know, yes, it's not as hardcore as a C63. Yes, it's not as hardcore as a C63S, but you're getting a lot of that AMG influence without a lot of the penalty.
Yeah, this dual clutch is extremely responsive. When you hit these large metal paddle shifters, that thing shifts. You can't tell any hesitation whatsoever.
It sounds really good. That was a big thing that I was worried about with the 4-cylinder is it going to sound as good as the V6? I can't say it sounds as good as the V6. I will say it sounds good still, though.
That's right. I think that's what's important.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't own a C43 before, and if you're not like us and drive C43s, you know, to review them every year, you wouldn't really know that there's too much of a difference. And this one still sounds very good. I'm still slightly disappointed that it doesn't sound as good as the V6, but overall, that's kind of what we're moving to as an auto industry, and I'm very happy that this 4-cylinder still sounds good. All right. Now that we're back, unfortunately, in the city, let's do some normal things like get our sound level reading. Unfortunately, not all the time you're going to be on a nice country road. Looks like we're sitting at 57.4 is our official Car Confections sound level reading. It is worth noting we went ahead and turned off the super loud exhaust. Yes. We put it back into comfort drive mode, so you don't have to worry about that. And as far as how that compares to some of its competition, you're going to be sitting right around the middle of the segment. We don't test out too many cars, especially in the performance end in this segment. So we have actually not been behind the wheel of the new M340i yet. We're hoping to do that soon. But as far as how that compares, that's pretty much average for a vehicle, especially that has a sporty flair to it. You're going to get a little bit more exhaust noise coming in.
That's
the point. Yeah, right. And I do also want to talk about your ride quality, because we haven't mentioned that up until this point, just on a smooth surface, you know, not on a country road. Since we do have those adaptive dampers like Drew mentioned on the outside, we do have a very smooth ride quality when you're just in comfort mode. Of course, it does have that adaptability to make it super sporty and very firm in the sport mode, but as far as just everyday compliance on the road, it's going to be very, very good, and you're going to be very impressed with it. I do want to point out that the seats are definitely on the firmer side. I like to point this out in a lot of Mercedes products because some people are not used to them. If you're coming from other luxury brands, they're definitely going to be stiffer than average. And I do want to talk about your fuel economy on the C43. It's going to be rated at 1926.22 miles a gallon combined, which actually is the same combined rating as the previous C43 with the 3-liter V6. So not really a fuel economy benefit for going for the 4-cylinder. You might have some different emissions deals going on to make the 4-cylinder actually a little bit better for the environment, but in terms of fuel economy, it's not going to be any better than the previous version. And I do want to point out that the BMW M340i, its chief rival, is rated quite a bit better at 26 miles a gallon combined for that new 2023 model. And now it is time for us to do our Car Confections Slam Dunk and Airball. Drew, what's the Slam Dunk?
Slam Dunk's gotta be the performance. The difference between the regular C-Class and this is just, it's an extreme difference. It really is. They have done a great job of really bringing in all the AMG elements here. When you take this out on a back road, you're gonna have a big goofy grin on your face because it's a lot of fun, and you have a lot of power, a lot of torque. You have a nice sound like we discussed. It really is just a great overall performance machine. And as far as the price, you know, relative to some other AMG products, it's a good price as well. Yeah. And for the Airball, I'm not going to harp on this too much, but I am very disappointed in the fuel economy. One would expect if you're losing 2 cylinders and actually losing some performance, it goes 0 to 60 slower, one would expect that you would get better fuel economy. That's actually not going to be the case over the previous C43, and the BMW M340i does get better fuel economy than this. And lastly, for your warranty, Mercedes is going to protect this with their signature warranty, 4-year, 50,000 miles for your basic and powertrain. So how much is this C43 going to cost? Well, in typical Mercedes fashion, it's not going to be cheap. So we're going to start at $59,900. Do keep in mind you have standard 4MATIC all-wheel drive. If you're curious as to how much more that is over a C300, it's going to be about $14,000 more expensive. You do still have a lot of the same options as a C300, so when you add in a lot of them, like this tester is optioned on, plus the 1150 destination, we're looking at $71,710 as equipped. And there are a few other options that you can add on to the C43 if you want to even go more upscale.
And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the all-new 2023 Mercedes-Benz C43 AMG. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, please hit that subscribe button down below. By doing so, you give us access to cars like this, where we can show you guys on the channel some of the newest, coolest cars for you all to see. So by subscribing, you really play an integral role in that. If you're already a subscriber, you are already playing your role, so thank you so much for that. Also, if you haven't had the chance to follow us on TikTok and Instagram, please go ahead and do that and check out our merch store. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.